Welcome to the program. Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Professor Tijjani Bande, is the president-elect of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly. He will take over from the 73rd president of the United Nations General Assembly in September this year at the commencement of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. On the program today, we'll bring you the vision for UNGA 74, the Africa-Nigeria presidency, and the critical issues therein. Joy Osiago in New York got him to speak on the value of partnerships to the realization of his objectives and that of the Sustainable Development Goals. This and more after this turnout. Stay with us. First in the line of thought is the place of Africa in the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Peace and Security. Climate action, how the mitigation strategies will be applied to check reduction on emission and ensuring clean energy adaptability. This is an African presidency, and I think it needs to be underlined that Nigeria or a Nigerian citizen is holding the position because it's a position rotated, and this time it is for the continent of Africa to produce the candidate. And our aspiration is really to see that Africa gives good leadership to the organization in terms of what we have committed to doing, i.e. to do these things well. Peace and security are really very critical to the continent. As you know, 75% of issues discussed in the Council today, meaning the Security Council of the United Nations, are about Africa. And therefore, Africa needs to take this matter with the seriousness it deserves. An African presidency, and a Nigerian presidency in particular, must show that peace and security is a very serious matter that is dealt with. We are aware of what terrorism has done to our region. We are aware of what terrorism has done to many parts of the world, particularly in Africa. And Peacekeeping Commission or Committee is a special committee established by the GA, which reports both to the GA and to the Security Council relating to matters of peacekeeping globally. And Nigeria has been privileged for a long time to serve as chair of the committee because of the initial efforts of Nigeria, which has been appreciated in global peacekeeping efforts. Each year, the committee does a report concerning the state of peacekeeping, which, with recommendations, especially to the Security Council, and often there is a consensus concerning the direction. But it is a very important committee, and obviously anything to do with peacekeeping is important. You can see that troop contributing countries are very serious concerning their own contribution. Without peacekeepers, many countries will be in trouble. So that is one element. Climate action is something that also resonates globally, even though we can see locally how some of the problems we are addressing in the Northeast region and in the Lake Chad region are driven largely by climate issues. Climate change is about commitment as agreed, in particular during the Paris Agreement. We are committed, we should be committed, and we have signed on to reducing emissions to 1.5%. Now, so far, we are not on target. And what we need to do is to go back to the drawing board, to recommit, to also find more effective means of ensuring that we have clean energy, we have means of monitoring. We commit to doing things in a more sustainable manner. All the rules and regulations that we have also seen, the signs of it are very clear. So climate action is just our implementing what we have already agreed to and having stronger monitoring mechanisms to ensure that we are on target. So climate action is extremely important. So beyond this, around the world, we have always argued inclusion affects everyone. Every country, every region is best advised to ensure that all elements in society are brought in. That is the only way to sustain peace.
He also engaged on poverty and redistribution of wealth and economic diversification in agriculture, healthcare as critical elements for human development and economic growth.
Every country, every region is best advised to ensure that all elements in society are brought in. That is the only way to sustain peace. And inclusion is important. We have also stated at the end of the tenure, we want to see that issues to do with poverty, reduction of poverty or elimination of poverty are clearly seen as being tackled. Poverty, as we have said, is a compound affliction. With poverty, an impoverished person is brought under all kinds of pressures. How countries or individuals are poor is a complex question. And in the vision statement, we alluded to some of the elements. Some may have to do with the way trade relations are structured, meaning we think a fair trade system with better access by countries that are considered poor on fair terms of trade is one way to attract it. The other element has to do with the whole question of policies. What policies are in place in terms of redistribution of wealth? Because the fact that some countries are poor does not mean that there cannot be ways to redistribute wealth in such a way that individuals broadly, as individuals, the largest majority are not poor, and that poverty can be addressed. Another element may have to do with what kind of economy is in place. Is it traditional? Is it agriculture? What mode of agriculture is it? Is it mechanized farming? What kind of crops are being produced? But the fundamental question is that those who are poor are generally around the world easier to be denied their rights for governments or individuals or institutions that seek to do this. The poor have difficulty accessing, in many countries, healthcare and several other things we know. So now the issue is simply collaboration. First of all, to agree that it is immoral and counterproductive to have especially a large difference between the rich and the poor. So gaps in prosperity between nations and within nations can create and has driven in history conflict. And that's why dealing with poverty is a critical matter for human development. And the United Nations has been committed and is committed, especially with the SDGs, to a holistic approach to improving human security, getting human development. And among those elements we deal with are poverty, illiteracy, and health. These ones are foundational in dealing with poverty issues. Now, poverty is the number one affliction of Africa and of many parts of the world. So that's why we have to make poverty eradication, because it can be eradicated. There is no injunction from anywhere that people must be poor. Indeed, there are lots of resources in countries that are considered poor, such that no one has to be poor. So illiteracy we have also dealt with. So these are some of these things. So at the end of the tenure, we want to see that Africa gives leadership to this prime multilateral organization in dealing with the challenges as have been initiated.
Political will is one other area Professor Bande harped on. He says it will change direction and drive the principle on delivering on mandates.
Political will is important, but several things are structural. They are not just about the predilections of one ruler. Rulers emerge under certain contexts, certain conditions, and they operate within structures, within rules, within traditions. So individuals can make a difference in the way they use moral precepts within their own system to say that this is not right and create better conditions for equity, if not equality. And will is there, but at times it is also about the structural elements as well. Political will is important, but a leader can also be limited by the conditions he or she finds himself or herself. But yes, we do need political will to change the direction, to even agree to the principles, because at times the principles are even good. It's just certain structures, so you have to now harp on the principles to change course for several. I mean, you talk to countries where, for example, there is systemic racism or a sense of exclusion. You may find their constitution may even ban discrimination. But beyond the written word, we have to find organs that can help government to achieve this issue in terms of equity.
Welcome to Diplomatic Ties.
And we're doing our best to make it as convenient and easy as possible for prospective students.
What we can do is just support the efforts of West African countries to integrate, to organize a better regional, political and economic integration.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Diplomatic Ties, building friendship and enhancing oneness among nations. Watch Diplomatic Ties on NTA International.
Galvanizing support towards shared goals in solving problems through cooperation and partnerships in the public and private sectors is what the General Assembly of the United Nations advocates to bridge the gap between developed and developing nations.
The General Assembly is the supreme platform for all leaders in the world, big or small, to recommit, but not only to recommit to the principles, but to forge partnerships with other countries, to share information and ideas, to also see whether solidarity can be strengthened where countries need help. So it's to really galvanize support, to get leaders to recommit, but not only to recommit, to see if they can work with others to solve some of their problems. Some of their problems, most problems are better solved through cooperation. Even if there is competition, elements of cooperation are also embedded within competition, because there must be rules. So the issue is that from the platform of the General Assembly, when leaders have already agreed in 2015 to the goals, the sustainable development goals. They have made poverty eradication such an important matter that it figures very early on as something to be tackled. So it is to say, in tackling this, you need partnership. You have something to sell, you have to have somebody who will buy. Somebody who will buy needs somebody who also is willing to sell. Then there must be clear rules. There must also be ways to learn how to produce better, because these goals are also connected. How you produce without destroying the environment, because the environment sustains us all. In the long run, if the environment is destroyed, nobody survives. So the best place to have leaders to now compare note, to see whether they can utilize knowledge from other places to improve their own situation, I think is the United Nations. When we say the United Nations, we are talking firstly of nations as nations, but we're also talking of the convening power of the United Nations to bring even companies to also help in solving problems, because it's not just the public sector. The private sector has also a place at the UN to help achieve the goals. This is why the 17th goal is partnerships, because it is the glue that keeps the system going. It is on its basis that you can have rich and poor countries talk to see how they might talk in partnership to solve problems.
Global money laundering and illicit financial flows is a definitive problem in need of cross-border rule-based cooperation, and it is of priority to the 74th United Nations General Assembly.
We look at the issue of what is called illicit financial flows globally. I think Nigeria has taken leadership at the UN with strong support, in fact, I must say, of countries like Norway in bringing this matter of illicit flows to the fore. But Africa as a region has understandably taken a lead concerning the issue of illicit financial flows. Since the Mbeki report, which was commissioned by the AU, established that anywhere between 50 billion and 150 billion dollars annually is lost through illicit flows, while the official development assistance, or ADA, itself, total, Africa gets probably no more than 10-15. So the position of African leaders, and Nigeria in particular, has been, rather than push to get ODA, let us push to get protocols that will guarantee that we block leakages, guarantee repatriation of stolen assets without conditions. Some countries give conditions for returning stolen funds. Efforts are ongoing. Nigeria is taking lead, like I said, with Norway and several countries, and the continent as a whole has taken this as an important matter. But it's not just the continent. Latin American countries are as serious about this matter as we are. Now, this matter of illicit flows is not a north or south issue. It is really a global matter. So there is no question that illicit flows is a serious issue, and Nigeria, under the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari, has championed this as his own approach to, among other things, to fighting corruption. And you made reference to his being made champion. He's been made champion of the AU last year to really galvanize support for anti-corruption measures around the continent. And this again also resonates with action done here concerning transparency and accountability. Every delegation is representing a country, and therefore member states are the ones who ultimately will agree to do something. What you have to do is to ensure a level playing field, give and take, to see that when you review after every cycle, whether a yearly or 2-yearly cycle or 5-yearly cycle, you see that an issue of importance that you need to resolve is being resolved. Occasionally there can be setbacks, as with life. But then setbacks are what they are. We come back to the drawing board to recommit to the principles of the organization, to re-energize ourselves to do more. Remember why the United Nations was established. It was following a serious problem the world has encountered, and therefore it is a commitment to see that succeeding generations are really saved from war. So this is why we always have to come back to the foundational element of why the UN is what it is and why it will not give up. It will continue to work to improve the condition of the world.
On policy sustainability of hunger, Professor Bande said,
no PGA will work without having to build on what the previous PGAs have done. You have just 1 year. And some of the things that she has done, we have to continue them. We have to continue things that others have done. And she has done a lot in terms of revitalizing the work of the Assembly, thinking of better ways of work within the Assembly, also raising the profile of some of the issues that she had stated while she was campaigning for the position, and she has been extremely effective in campaigning to get things sorted out. And going forward, she is a partner of immense value to the organization.
That concludes the program today. It was on the interview session Joy Osiago had with Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York and the 74th President-elect of the United Nations General Assembly to be inaugurated in September this year. Hope you had it informative. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Welcome to Diplomatic Ties.
And we're doing our best to make it as convenient and easy as possible for prospective students.
What we can do is just support the efforts of West African countries to integrate, to organize a better regional, political and economic integration.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Diplomatic ties, building friendship and enhancing oneness among nations. Watch Diplomatic Ties on NTA International.